In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters in a starship. Wait, what? Hold on. Who wrote this? Oh. Strange New Worlds. Episode review. Welcome back, one and all, to Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And I don't know about you, but somehow we're up to episode 7 of the first season, and that does not seem right to me. I feel like this show just started about 3 weeks ago, but here we are, almost up to the end of the season, and boy, do we have an episode to talk about today. If you are new here, I will be going into spoilers and breaking down what happened in the episode before I give my final thoughts. If that's not your thing, either come back after you've seen the episode, or skip to the end if you only want to hear me say a couple of things as far as what I thought about the episode, but there's probably going to be spoilers there too. One other thing, just a note, today here it is hotter than the Vulcan Forge. I have turned my air conditioning off just for the audio quality of the video, so I hope you appreciate the sacrifices I'm making for you all today. Now, into the episode 7 of Season 1, the Serene Squall. And let me give you the synopsis from the actual website. Well, on a dangerous humanitarian mission, the crew of the USS Enterprise stumbles into a harrowing game of leverage with the Quadrant's deadliest space pirate. If you've been following along with the synopses from the last couple of episodes, you'll probably feel like they're over-exaggerating the actual stakes and the description. I think that's probably by choice. Just putting that out there. Kicking it off, Stardate 1997.9, and our log person this episode surprised me. Kick off on Vulcan, the person recording the log, to Pring from her rehabilitation center, her penal colony, whatever you want to call it. Very surprised by that. I think this is the first time we've had a log kicking off an episode not by one of the actual main crew of the Enterprise. Not a bad thing. For a brief moment, I actually thought this whole majority of the episode might actually take place on Vulcan, but we discover she's leaving a log. She's having a bit of an issue dealing with Spock's long-distance-ness as well as his half-humanness, and in order to try and deal with that, she has read up on human sexuality. I think she mentions 3 contemporary books. I think they're all contemporary. They didn't do the whole Star Trek thing of mentioning 2 real things and then throwing in, I also read Rigelian Human Sexuality, written by Zork Xenork in the year 2247. I think all of the books she mentioned were actual real books you could go check out right now. Contact Spock, has a conversation about it. He's a little put off, like, isn't this something we should probably be doing together? She's said, well, Spock, as the pure Vulcan who doesn't understand your human side, I was thinking that it was on me to try and figure you out. Nice little conversation between them, and then we cut back to the Enterprise for the remainder of the episode, so I guess this is the transition point for the most part. Spock talks about to Nurse Chapel about what just happened, his uncomfortableness about what T'Pring is doing. I guess this is leading out of the relationship they developed back in episode 5, Spock Amok. So also, if you've been following my previous couple of videos, I do think things are not necessarily being shown to us in order. So this episode clearly takes place after Spock Amok based on these 2 relationships here, at least in theory. Okay, now we get to the crux of the plot, the main plot, and here we have Counselor Aspen, or former Counselor Aspen, because they have left Starfleet to work on the fringes of society, the fringes of Federation territory. I say they, this character is identifying as a they, so I may slip up in my video based on something that happens later in the episode, but for the time being, Counselor Aspen here is giving them the breakdown of what's happening. So there's some colonists, they've disappeared, there's some piracy going on. The Federation doesn't like to send their ships this close to the border that frequently, so they were surprised, rather, that the Enterprise was the one dispatched to come help. And they're going to need to get some help from, or I guess authorization from Starfleet to cross the border. But, and here's something that'll come back into play later, It is stated that communications to Starfleet Command will take 2 days. They are so far away that's going to take 2 days to get that message to Starfleet. And so they send it off. In the meantime, PIke is saying, we're going to go do it. Don't have 2 days to dick around. Don't have 2 days to wait. These colonists have potentially been abducted to be sold into slavery by pirates. That was the crux of what they're thinking might have happened. So we're going to leave Federation territory to go hunt these colonists down before the worst possible fates might befall them. So here we are, dropping off some subspace buoys to help amplify the ability to contact the Federation and Starfleet and all that, and they head out into, I almost said unknown territory. It's not really unknown territory. It's just not part of Federation territory. It's like the fringes. PIke actually describes it as the Wild Wild West. Very, very missed opportunity right there to call it the Ancient West, because they love calling things ancient in Star Trek. They called it the Ancient West in Next Gen, so not sure how long it will have until it transitions into the Ancient West. So we've got this situation going on here where they've detected some signals, a distress signal for the colony ship, one of the ships at least, and Aspen here says, well, that's probably a trap. PIke says, we're actually obligated to check it out because we're Starfleet. That's what we do. I know it's probably a trap, but we're going to check it out. And then immediately they fall into a trap. Again, this will come into play later in the episode because something doesn't add up about it to me. Maybe it's just me misunderstanding something. So it's sort of a prototype of force field that's created by various lasers being reflected off the asteroids, I think is how they described it. After a bit of back and forth with the crew on how to get out of it, can we shoot it? Can we try to redirect the asteroids to create a break in the field? Certain situations like that. A lot of the crew have different options. PIke asks them, they go for the best option, which is Spock here has picked up 2 asteroids that have a distinct signature that could potentially be the one that they need to destroy the generator on, something along those lines. I wasn't entirely certain how it works, but I think it was along those lines. But he doesn't know which one it is. Based on energy decay, it could be either or. And PIke says, go with your gut. Go with your gut. Pick one, figure it out. That's kind of the subplot of this entire episode, is Spock dealing with his half-human, half-Vulcanness. Does that make him one or the other or his own thing? That's kind of the emotional subtext going on, even when it's not part of the main story. So he decides to play his hunch, pick one, not comfortable about it, but he picks one. They shoot it. Bravo. It is the correct one. Energy shields drop. And then we see this tick-looking ship kind of boop and fly along. They don't address it, so the Enterprise clearly doesn't know it's there. Anyways, they get to the craft. There is approximately 200 life signs on board that roughly equates to the missing colonists, and they go on a landing party, away team, rescue mission thing. PIke is leading it. La'an is there. There's a couple other. Mbenga, I believe, went. Oh no, Mbenga didn't go. Una came down. I'm getting 2 things mixed up. Anyways, this is the team going to try and rescue the colonists before it's too late. At the same time, it turns out, while we were beaming over the ship, some pirates cross-beamed onto the Enterprise. And another thing I'm not too pleased with is they just immediately were able to take over the ship for the most part. I mean, they beamed over and just were... I can understand taking over part of the ship, but getting to the bridge that easily and without any security at all, I feel like that was a little too easy. A little too easy on their part, unless they had some sort of command codes or something, cloaking devices, I don't know. So here is who we are led to believe the captain, the leader of this band of merry misfits. Think he's an Orion. I'm not sure if it was ever explicitly mentioned, but he looks like he's an Orion. And has this chat with PIke. Now, I will say, I believe my favorite part of the episode is this little back and forth between PIke and this guy. He's trying to get the codes for the Enterprise from PIke. Oh, I didn't mention it was a trap, if you hadn't already guessed. There were no colonists over there to rescue. It was all fake signals, and it was a trap. Too bad we didn't see that coming earlier on. Like this scene here, Spock and Dr. Aspen were able to escape the bridge with Aspen getting shot in the shoulder, and I just like the shot of the old school TOS era Jeffries tube looking thing. I like that. I don't think we've seen it before this episode in Strange New Worlds, unless I'm forgetting. And here we have Pike starting to get the heck beat out of him. Why did I say heck instead of hell? I don't know. So, he's still keeping up good spirits. Oh, there was also a subplot mentioned earlier where Pike is kind of viewed as the Boy Scout of Starfleet, and that's part of the reason he was going on this mission, because he wanted to prove he's more of a badass than that. Anyways, he gets beat up a little bit. Then he has this conversation with the leader over there, who, for the life of me, I can't remember his name. And he's saying, your gruel sucks. If you give me a chance, I'll cook for these people. My crew needs to eat. Your crew needs to eat. Everyone needs to eat. And you're a terrible, terrible captain because your cooking is so bad. Then we have the inevitable twist where Dr. Aspen actually is the captain of the bad guys. Yes, sir. Her name is actually Angel. Now, here's where I was trying to... I wasn't exactly sure how this works. So, it's determined the real counselor at Aspen, this character here, Captain Angel, stranded on a planet and took the persona of. So, I don't know if Angel identifies as they, or if it was purely just the persona of Dr. Aspen who had been taken over. So I'm not entirely sure how Angel identifies. So that's why I was kind of confused as to a character playing another character, which was which. That's why I kept getting my confusion going, because it's not really the character it's supposed to be. So Aspen was Angel the whole time. The real Aspen we never met is on a planet somewhere, at least according to Angel here. And this was all a ruse to get the Enterprise. But we discover the ruse was not to get the Enterprise exactly. The ruse was to get Spock. So this entire debacle was in order to get Spock. And I guess, getting the flagship of the Federation and a bunch of, high-end Starfleet officers that they could sell to the Klingons or something. That was just a nice bonus. So here's a shot of the Enterprise under control of the bad guys now, shooting multiple phasers at once, which will lead me back to the trap they had to get out of earlier. They needed to figure out which of the two asteroids to shoot to disable it. If they can shoot multiple phasers at the same time, why could they not shoot both of them simultaneously, thus negating the need to make a last-ditch decision that might explode in your face? That I don't understand. Why couldn't they have... I'm sure there would have been some technobabble reason to explain why they couldn't, but it seems to me like that would be a logical choice, unless there's some reason that wouldn't happen, which I don't think was explained in the episode. Small nitpick, I know, just something that glared out to me that even within the own episode, they kind of negated their own decision. Okay, the real point of this episode was Angel wants to get her Vulcan husband or her Vulcan lover. Again, I don't know if it's a her, maybe it's a they, because Angel isn't Aspen. So they wanted to get the character of a Vulcan extremist who did not follow logic out of the penal colony where T'Pring works. So they want to bring this guy to the Enterprise and make an exchange for Spock's life. Here's where things start falling apart for me as far as things established within the episode. Not necessarily the plan, but it was established early on. They needed 2 days for the comm traffic to reach Starfleet in order to get permission to enter this. That was the whole point of the beginning of the story, is they were out of contact with Starfleet. It was a 2-day comm travel to get to Starfleet to even ask for permission. Now, we're in the same area, I would argue even further out, because now we're outside of Federation territory, and they can establish live comm communication with video to Vulcan. Now, maybe Vulcan is closer than Starfleet Command, but I can't imagine it's, significantly closer. And even if that's the case, if you can establish live transmission to Vulcan, why couldn't you contact Vulcan, have Vulcan relay the information to Starfleet, and basically, have two monitors set face to face from Vulcan to cut that 2-day traffic down to an instantaneous communication, if that's the case. So that didn't add up to me, let alone the fact that we are about to see, I'll get back to this in a minute. We are about to see over here, she immediately shows up. So T'Pring, not only less than 2 days communication away, an instant warp jump to this far off piece of space, unless you're trying to tell me the bad guys had control of the Enterprise for several days, meaning Pike, Spock, and all the rest of them were under guard, hanging out for several days, where we see Spock is still on the bridge. Spock and Chapel are still on the bridge where they were when they originally made communication with T'Pring. So somehow they instantaneously communicated with Vulcan, convinced T'Pring to get this guy out of prison, jump in a ship, warp to the edges of Federation space in what looks like, as presented by the show, a matter of maybe minutes. None of the timelines and the distances in this episode are working out for me at all. I'm sorry, that's a huge seeming plot hole for me as far as what was trying to be established in this episode. I know I might be harping on something that in the end it doesn't really matter, because the story they wanted to tell is the story they wanted to tell, but that is what really took me out of the episode. The stuff I just skipped over is the subplot of Pike basically inciting a mutiny. He said that, or Una, I think, is the one that actually said it. They used the strategy they used on Braga 4, which I think is a reference to A, Brian and Braga, and B, in season 7 of TNG, I think the one where Data's mother comes back, it was mentioned that they went to Braga 6, so probably also a reference to that. Just a nice little touch, doesn't really impact the story at all. So, the ploy here is Spock and Chapel pretend to be in love so that T'Pring doesn't want to do the trade, because they don't want to have this prisoner turned over to Angel, whatever the actual character is at this point. That could be a ruse for all I know too. Anyways, so they have this little thing, Spock and Chapel kiss, T'Pring and Spock break off their marriage, and Angel is a little peeved, and suddenly a ship warps in from out of nowhere. It is the enemy ship, which was called the Serene Squall, by the way, and the bad guys no longer have control of the Enterprise. You can see here something I do want to touch on before I get to that. Why are bad guys in sci-fi always dirty? They've got freaking spaceships, they can have interplanetary travel, but they don't have the ability to bathe or shower? Why are they all covered in dirt? I mean, they don't have a sonic shower. They don't have water. I don't know. I just don't. I know it's just another nitpick, but why are they always dirty? Clean yourself up just because you're a pirate. God. Creeps me out. Okay, so Pike had taken over the enemy vessel. I do like how he's controlling it with some, a sci-fi like big old ship's wheel. That was pretty cool. I do like that. I feel like we should see that more in sci-fi. Maybe not Star Trek, but it does seem like a very cool idea to have a sci-fi big captain's wheel that controls the ship. Probably not very practical, but I dig it. And they use their command codes to backdoor into the Enterprise, shut everything down. Ortega shoots a few shots, takes out the impulse and warp engines. Pike's like, whoa, I told you to be careful. Take easy shots, gentle shots. And I do actually like this line, even though she's been a bit snarky all episode. It's like, how do you gently shoot something? So I did kind of like that. And, okay. I meant to give you another spoiler break, but biggest reveal of the episode is the Vulcan prisoner they were trying to break out of prison is Sybok. That's right, Spock's half-brother, the one that I glibly mentioned a couple episodes ago when La'an was mind-melding with Spock about how, oh, you've got a secret sibling as well. And we're all supposed to expect that it's going to be a Michael Burnham reference, and then his name is Sybok. That actually, had they done that in that episode, that could have been a cooler reveal now. Just for people who are watching Strange New Worlds who may not be familiar with older Star Trek to even know who Sybok is. But the fact that they're bringing in Sybok, I think, as far as memory serves me, has never been referenced outside of Star Trek V. So that kind of takes away that fan theory that Star Trek V was all a fever dream if Sybok actually exists. I'm excited to see what they do with him, if they're actually planning to use him, because that could be an interesting character, but I don't know how they're going to use him. I'm a bit over Vulcan subplots, if I'm going to be honest. The whole logic extremism, logic versus emotion. It's been done a lot in Star Trek, especially Enterprise. So I don't know how I'm going to feel about any long-term Vulcan storyline. Just a personal thing for me. I am happy to see Sybok. I did think that was kind of a cool reveal. And depending on what they do with it, it could be an interesting situation going forward. That obviously remains to be seen. They didn't even show his face, so I'm not 100% sure they've actually cast the character yet. Also, kind of looks a little bit like Obi-Wan to me, but I digress. So, I had some major problems upon first watching the episode. Seemed bland, boring, didn't really care for it, up until the twist. Now, the twist wasn't something that was that fantastic. Obviously, this was a takeover of the Enterprise episode combined with I just had it. So a takeover of the Enterprise episode combined with a Starfleet / Federation higher up that isn't what they actually claim to be. So that was, these are various tropes we've seen in Star Trek time and time again. That seemed to be the crux of this, along with furthering the Chapel Spock to Pring situation, I guess I'll call it. My major problems are the 2-day comm traffic problem. Suddenly they're able to instantly communicate with the Federation and instantly travel from the outer reaches of Federation territory to Vulcan. Maybe it just wasn't presented in a good way. The trap was mentioned by not Angel at the time. They were still going by Aspen at the time, to not be left by the bad guys. Is that true? Or was Angel just lying? I don't know. If it really was just a trap not set by the bad guys and it was a random trap just kind of in space, I kind of would have liked that to be explored a little more, because who left the trap? Why was it there? I don't know. Just seemed like a lingering plot thread. Maybe it was just a lie and it actually was set by the bad guys. I don't know. And it was a little too easy to beam onto the ship and take over the ship, because they didn't actually seem to be that competent of a crew of pirates. They were easily tricked by Pike's manipulations. They didn't really have a huge crew. Another big problem, 3 episodes in a row with no Hemmer. So we still haven't gotten an Ortegas episode, aside from just her various sort of snarky comments we've had along the way. And we have not had Hemmer's episode, or even seen him in 3 episodes. I don't like that. I mean, isn't he supposed to be a main member of the crew? I know he's supposed to have an episode, or at least a prominent role in an episode, based on the preseason trailer where he was pretending to be a wizard or something. So I'm very intrigued to see what we do with Hemmer, and we've gotten very little of him. Also, I don't even think Uhura was in this episode. She may have been in the background. I don't know. And again, Chapel was a big part of this episode. Nothing against Chapel. I like Chapel as a character. She comes off a little grating sometimes, a little overbearing, but I think that's part of her personality, and it's supposed to be that way. But for not having episodes with some of our main characters yet, Chapel has helped save the day at least half of the season, even in an episode where M'Benga should have been the primary focus. So I think they're playing on her a little too much, even though I like her. I do like her. I like the actress. She's doing a pretty good job with her character, even when she is overbearing. It's just a little too much when we've got other characters that have not yet had their chance to shine. Overall, not my favorite episode. If it wasn't for that twist actually the two twists, the Cybok twist and the twist of Aspen being a fake. I think this might have been my lowest episode of the season outside of Spock Amok, but it's grown on me the more I think back on it, even with the gaping plot holes, but still definitely not the best of Strange New Worlds by far. It is still by far one of the lower tier episodes of the season so far. That being said, still nowhere near the depths of some of the worst of Discoveries, so we are still hitting higher notes than a lot of the worst episodes of modern Star Trek. Until next time, I'm Win Grace, computer and program.